So let's look at Giants free agents. And the two big ones, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. Those are the two big ones. And that's been the question for most of the season. I think if you asked a lot of people before the season, they would say pass on both. That those people that are still so butthurt about the fact that we drafted Barkley number 2 overall in the 2018 draft, get over it. Think that he's lost a step, which I'm not arguing with, and that he's not worth the money or the effort, and that it's not a running backs league. Running backs are not a top position anymore. They're just very anti-running back for whatever reason. And they feel like he's a burden on our cap, and that money can be better spent elsewhere. I just love the friggin' guy. He's like a superhero, and I can't bring myself or bear watching him make plays for another team. Not that I'm not used to it by now, having seen the likes of like Evan Ingram, Kadarius Toney, like all these guys that were on our team that are just find a way to make highlight plays somewhere else, and not do the things that killed us when they were on our team. Interesting. So we exercised a $7.2 million option for 2022 back in April of last year. His market value is, according to Spot Track, is 4 years, $47.8 million, with an average annual salary of around $12 million, which would make him the 8th highest paid running back in the league. The contract's comparable to those signed by Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, and Alvin Kamara. It's a pretty good class of running backs to be a part of. And hey, listen, I get it. Christian McCaffrey was on the Panthers. The Panthers sucked. He goes to the 49ers, and the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. Joe Mixon is on the Bengals. Bengals went to the Super Bowl last year, probably going to the Super Bowl this year. Dalvin Cook's on the Vikings. I'm not going to touch that one. Alvin Kamara is on the Saints. Real great in fantasy football. So apparently Joe Shane spoke. And while it seems like Daniel Jones is pretty much a lock to come back, it seems like things are not as sure or certain with Saquon Barkley. Although I think there was an interview with Barkley after the loss, or even the next day after. And it sounded like he's willing to be flexible and negotiate, and he wants to stay with the team. So I say, let's I say bring him back. 4 years. I mean, how old is he? He's like 26, right? Let's check it out. 25 years old. He's going to be 26 in like a couple weeks. So that would put him at age 30, and that's about the time that he's probably going to ride off in the sunset. A lot of these running backs, they don't really make it past 30. I think that's when Tiki started to think about retirement, was age 30. And he finally had somewhat of a good offensive line, a better offensive line than in more recent years than he's had. I mean, he basically didn't have a good average, even an average offensive line for his entire career until this year. Now, this offensive line, not so great. Pass protection, better in run blocking situations. So can you imagine that once we, Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas are your bookends, you're kind of stuck with Glowinski. Feliciano and Gates might be gone. So you're looking for a center guard. I don't know if you have that much confidence in Bredesen. If he's splitting time with Gates, I think he's more of a backup piece. And Josh Azudu has his pluses and his minuses, pros and his cons. Is he good in pass protection? Yes, but does he stink in run block? No. It's like not exactly, high grades in each aspect. So I think they fixed the offensive line. They couldn't really fix it. They addressed it last year, but they couldn't really fix it. And I don't know that they're going to really fix it this offseason, but it's going to get a little better. It got a little better last offseason. It's going to get a little better this offseason. And then, so by the time his contract is up, I feel confident that he'll have another 4 1,000-yard seasons. And, will he be a Hall of Famer? I don't know. But I certainly think he can go down as one of the franchise's top running backs, right up there with Tiki. I'd like to see that happen. We need to knock Tiki off the pedestal. I can't. It's tough looking at like, the franchise leaders and seeing Tiki up there and knowing that he's so despised. And a lot, I mean, I get, I think as time goes on, like that'll wear off and like people will come around and be like, yeah, Tiki's like, he's all right. He's an all right guy. Gave us a lot of great moments. So it's up to me. I'm signing him, and I play the hometown card, the hometown favorite, and say, hey, you've been with the team. It'd be great to see you retire as a lifelong Giant. And I think this, if this isn't the final contract, that puts him at 29, 30. And it's like, at that point, you're probably going to be starting to split carries, because you see the toll that it's taking on him. And so maybe it'd be nice if they don't have to rely on him that much. I think towards the end of his career, you'd look to do 50-50 with someone. That would be sweet. But I still think that, you don't go to 50-50 next year in terms of workload, but I do think you need to like maybe lean on Matt Breida a little bit more, who is also a free agent, or bring in someone else that you feel is going to be the next coming. The second coming of Tony Pollard, which is odds are not great. So I say bring him back. I know a lot of people are like, no, running back is not a valuable position. It shouldn't command a lot of your cap space. Shouldn't be a big cap hit. But I mean, I just point to Christian McCaffrey on the friggin' Niners, dude. When you put McCaffrey on a team that has a good rushing attack and that knows how to utilize him in the passing game, you see what kind of difference it makes. They haven't lost a freaking game. I think the Giants, Saquon can be that for the Giants. If you surround him with, you've got a decent play caller in Kafka, and hopefully they don't lose him, because even though I have my beef with him in certain respects, especially the Philadelphia game. I mean, that was like, what are you doing? But I think you got a creative play caller. Your offensive line is gonna get better. No, he's not as explosive as he was as a rookie, but that happens with time. He still has some eye-popping plays this year. I mean, just look at his freaking highlight reel. He runs like a maniac when he's healthy. And he's strong, and he's faster than most guys. I don't know. He'll be very sad if he leaves. I'll be very sad. So next up, Daniel Jones. If ask anyone before the season, hey, do you want to sign Daniel Jones to a 3-year contract, $76 million, $77 million? Do you want to do that? It's like, no. Like the team did not pick up his 5th-year option. It was available. They would have paid him $22.3 million, and he didn't pick it up. And you can read into that all you want, but I think that's more of a case of, we can't afford that. I'm sorry, we can't afford that. We just can't afford that, knowing your injury history, your proclivity for turning the ball over, decision making, et cetera, et cetera. And then he comes in this year, and looks like if we do re-sign him, it's going to be more than $22 million. Average annual salary of almost $26 million, which would make him the 15th highest paid quarterback in the league. So for everyone saying, oh, it's too much money. Ugh, $26 million for Danny Dimes? Not, can we pay him in dimes? 15th. And when we get to the free agent, the NFL free agents, not Giants free agents, but the next section, Giants free agents, NFL free agents, you're gonna shit your britches when you hear some of these approximate annual values that some of these quarterbacks are going to command in the market. I needed a moment because I saw some numbers floating around. I was like, what? That guy? So I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think 3 years, you combine him with Saquon for the next 3-4 years. I'd be shocked if we don't get to the Super Bowl, dude. I mean, I just feel that good This isn't like the 2016 team that's going to go into 2017. Ben McAdoo lost control of the clubhouse. And it doesn't sound like that's the case here. I think that was a lot of the weight and blame fell on Ben McAdoo. And a lot of the blame fell on friggin' Jerry Reese, dude, who was the GM at the time. And that's why they canned him after the 2017 year. And they brought in Dave Gettleman. And we'll look at Jerry Reese's draft history in another video, in a future video. I just don't think we're going to get to it today. But Jerry Reese didn't have like a huge, he had a decent hit rate in terms of like starters, quality starters in the draft, but not a lot of Pro Bowlers, not a lot of all pros. So a lot of guys that were just like there and like helped. And it was mostly Eli winning a lot of those games and a guy that was undrafted, Victor Cruz. Holy crap. So that contract, that DJ contract, 3 years, $77 million is comparable to one signed by Mitchell Trubisky, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jameis Winston. So it's not like, for everyone who's like might clutch their pearls at like that cost, that price tag. We're getting him for the equivalent of those guys with the potential of him being better than those guys. That's the hope, right? It's like we always talk about like, please God, be better than Mitch Trubisky, Tannehill, Garoppolo, and Winston. Garoppolo is an interesting one that we'll get to in a second. All right, so I say yes to DJ, signing him. I say yes. Let's keep the consistency. We're building something here. And even though Shane and Dayball are the new guys to the clubhouse, to the organization, and they probably want to do things their way with their guys, it's hard to argue with the kind of productivity you got out of Jones and Barkley. And they tested Jones, and he passed in the training camp, if we remember from the last episode. Dayball revealed that. So they put their toes to the fire, nose to the fire, face to the fire, and I think they passed. I think you got to give them a passing grade, and I think they showed that they can, with the appropriate play calling and scheme, can give you everything. Without them, who knows where we're at this season? And, also it's like the alternatives. Saquon, maybe not so much. I'm not going to argue with that. There are definitely alternatives that would suffice. I don't know that there are many alternatives for replacing Daniel Jones. And we'll get to that in a second. But Sterling Shepard, and I know this is going to be an unpopular take, but whatever. I don't think you re-sign him. I think you pass. Unless we're talking like bare league minimum. It's just too many injuries, bad injuries, really severe injuries that I just don't think you can come back from. And like he looked okay the beginning of this year. He had a long ass touchdown against the Titans and seemed to be is always a great last resort safety valve on third down. He's gonna get you that first down over the middle, tough yardage, tough catches. I just don't see it. And like, that's why I think they're probably going to re-sign him. But the stone cold businessman in me is like, we got to move on, or at least we'll just sign him to the bare minimum, because like, I just can't stay on the field, dude. And like, great for the locker room. So even if you like, maybe you just, I don't know, you find out where he is physically and you say, hey, here's the deal. We want you to be part of this organization no matter what. What's that going to take? And address it from there. But as just purely as a player coming back off like so many horrific, gruesome, bad injuries, I don't know that you can fork out another $3-4 million. I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge cap hit, but it's a lot of money that could go to like a guard or an interior linebacker or a corner, a nice depth piece maybe. Nick Gates is a tough one because I know he's another guy that everyone loves. Listed as a guard, people think he's going to move to center. Do you re-sign him? Tough as nails, great story, comeback player of the year, potentially. I just don't know. If he was maybe this is a case of the injury, maybe like coming back from an injury. So it's hard to, maybe I shouldn't make a judgment on him, but it is a contract year. And it's like, dude, you were also splitting time with Bredesen and you couldn't replace Feliciano at center. Honestly, if he's that good, wouldn't he have replaced Feliciano at center or been the full-time starting guard? Just my 2 cents. But he's coming back from injury. So I guess that's part of it. It's like they don't want to overwork him and then re-injure him, I guess, is the MO there. The goal, the approach. But if they don't re-sign him, yeah, I'll be sad. But I'm not hard-pressed to re-sign him. I'm not hard-pressed to re-sign John Feliciano. I don't know how he's a Pro Bowl alternate. Decent PFF grade, but nothing great. I just think we can do better now that we have cap space. Justin Ellis, pass, my man. Pass. I've never seen a bigger man get more ragdolled on a football field. I just don't get it. He's so big, and yet he gets plowed. Nick Williams, he must have got hurt or something. I didn't see much of him on the field. I am for re-signing Matt Breida because I still think we haven't tapped into what he can provide to us. I think we probably should have leaned on him a little bit more so that Saquon wasn't overworked and not as banged up. But I get it if they don't want to re-sign him. I get if they want to bring in someone that they feel is a little more, they feel like they can take some of the pressure off of Saquon. I get it. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't re-sign Casey Kreider, the long snapper. I don't think we ran into any issues there. This is a tough one. Jihad Ward. I don't know that he really did much that would stand out in the stats column and the box score. It just felt like he gave a shit. That was just refreshing to see that he was intense, emotionally trying to get his team fired up. Good for the clubhouse. I personally would re-sign him as a depth piece, but again, it's okay if they decide to go in a different direction. I'd pass on Tony Jefferson, strong safety. I'd pass on Jamie Gillen. Bon voyage, Scottish Hammer. It's been real. It's been a real. I can't even do a Scottish accent, which sucks because I am Scottish. I should be able to do that. Richie James is a big one. Do you re-sign him? Kind of feels like you're going to split with Galladay, so you're down 1. I don't think you bring back Sterling Shepard, so that's 2. So then you have Wandale. Do you bring back Darius Slayton? And then you have you have a bunch there that are just Hodgins, and then it's like, And he was kind of clutch at times. Big drop against the Vikings, I get it. Big drop against the Eagles. But as a 5'6" depth piece to step in when you got injuries, I don't hate it. And it's crazy to say that because I know we were like, shoot him into the moon after he fumbled 2 punts. But like, maybe not return punts. It's okay. Find someone else to return punts. Fabian Moreau, do you resign him? I mean, fairly admirable job considering like he didn't start the season with the team. Came in after Aaron Robinson got hurt and was underperforming. Again, good depth piece, knows the system. Wink is comfortable with him. I'm partial to re-signing him just because I don't think he played that bad, but understandable if they want to upgrade there. Pass on Marcus Johnson and pass on O'Shane Zimenez. Boy, oh boy. And that hurts. Ox, dude. Really thought that he was going to be something special. Really thought that he was going to turn out to be something more than he was. And it looked like in training camp in the beginning of the season, he kind of recaptured what we were so happy about with him. And I think his rookie season. And then it just tapered off and fell off. Julian Love is a big one. So I'd say this is the third free agent, Giants free agent that is in the pecking order in terms of priority. You got DJ number 1, Saquon 2, and then it's Julian Love. Julian Love is only 24 years old. His market value, according to Spot Track, 5 years, almost $40 million, which would be an average salary of almost $8 million, which would make him the 9th highest paid free safety. Something about that doesn't feel right. That contract is comparable to those signed by Rayshon Jenkins from the Jaguars, who I'm very familiar with. Not very familiar with, but I know well enough that he's a pretty damn good ball player that has altered games for the Jags. Tracy Walker, I don't know. Jordan Whitehead, I don't know. Chuck Clark, I don't know. So I can't really speak to those guys. But I think the 24 years old, the age thing is so huge. You know, he'd be 29 at the end of the contract. But is he a top 10 free safety, dude? I don't think so. So that's a tough one. I'm going to go with yeah. Strictly based on him being young. Maybe he continues to develop. He continues to improve. It's not like he's peaked and this is on the wayside of his career, the downside of his career. I think his trajectory is up and up and up. So I say pull a trigger, and maybe he does become a top 10 free safety, especially under Wink, who I don't think Wink Martindale's going anywhere. Wink Martindale's not going to want to be a head coach now, right? He's a defensive coordinator through and through. So let's just give him the money he wants and continue to get better on that side of the ball. Give him the players that he needs to make this a top 10 unit. Because it's shown flashes of being a top 10 unit when they're all healthy and all on the field. Obviously not against Philly. But I think, that's why we're looking to replace guys like Darnay Holmes and Fabian Moreau and Jalen Smith and Gerard Davis and, stuff like that, things like that. And then the last but not least, number 4 in our priority of Giants free agents, in my mind, wide receiver Darius Slayton. This is a guy who inexplicably was just going to be cut in preseason in the training camp. I don't get it. And I've watched guys like Ruben Randall ruin Eli Manning. No, he didn't ruin him. But I mean, I would say if I said to Giants fans, hey, name a wide receiver that frustrated the fuck out of you for multiple years, that you wanted to be better and you just couldn't get there, I would think Ruben Randall's up there. Like, pretty high. Do I think Darius Slayton is Ruben Randall? No, but goddamn, it's getting close. I mean, big drop against the Vikings in the playoff game. Just really catchable, easy balls that he keeps dropping. So it's just stuff like that. Not coming, little things. There was a pass to him in the Eagles game where it's like Blankenship that I guess a rookie safety or something like that is coming up and charging hard, and Slayton's just sitting there waiting for the ball. It's like, go get the ball, and you don't have to worry about Blankenship coming in and what was a DPI, but whatever. We're not going to call it. So I just seen a lot of good. There's a lot of bad, but I think I've seen more good than bad. And yeah, he disappears sometimes. But we've said there are games where he can look like the number 1, and there are games where he can look like a number 4 or 5. His market value, according to Spot Track, 2 years, $7 million, $3.5 million a year. That would put him at like the 62nd wide receiver in terms of contracts. It put him at 62 among wide receivers. The contract would be comparable to those signed by Kendrick Bourne, Braxton Berrios, Traquan Smith, and Khalif Raymond. So you're not really breaking the bank, but you have a guy that could break it to the house. I mean, that's the kind of player he is. He's one of the few Giants receivers that has been able to get separation and to get open. And I think he's shown the ability to go up and have contested catches. He didn't have a ton of them this year. Of course, there was the one against Minnesota, which it would have been nice if he came down with it in the end zone. But, I mean, how old is he? He's also not that old. 26. 2 years, he's 28. And then, if he gives you more of the same over the next 2 years, then all right. Lesson learned. But I still think that I have enough faith in Darius Slayton to know that Although I don't think this coaching staff does. So I would, me personally, I would want to resign him, but I think they probably move on from him. I don't know that he's assuaged their fears. Is that a word? I don't think he's dispelled their concerns. Like they were going to cut him. They were going to cut him in training camp, and then he would turn out to be, statistically, I think he's the number 1 wide receiver on the Giants, which is saying a lot. So yeah, I say yes to Saquon, yes to DJ, yes to Julian Love, and yes to Slayton, although I don't think it's going to happen. And Saquon might not happen, which is crazy.